If you're struggling with anxiety, if you're getting intense panic attacks, if you're getting intrusive thoughts, if you're getting intense physical symptoms and you don't know what's going on, chances are you're probably relying on a safety person or safety people. This could be your family, your parents, your spouse, a good friend, and you're really relying on them and you're feeling like you can't even be independent anymore. You feel like you can't even be alone. How do you overcome that? And more importantly, how do you go back to trusting yourself, being carefree in yourself, being confident in yourself where you don't need to rely on anybody else? Well, in this video, I'm going to break down really why people who struggle with anxiety use people as safety people in general, and more importantly, how to go back to becoming your own guide and really becoming more self-reliant. So with that said, let's get it started. So before we get started, I'm not really going to break down the mechanics of anxiety. I'm not going to really talk about the steps you require to overcome it. If you really want to know, I have a free ebook down below that breaks down essentially how to overcome it, what are the mechanics of anxiety, how the recovery journey works. In this video, I'm going to be talking about specifically how do you stop relying on this person. So if you really want to know about the ebook, the link is down below. Check it out. It helps a lot of people. It's something I wish I would have had during my recovery journey, and I hope it helps you out on yours. Now, that being said, when I was struggling with anxiety, actually before I was even struggling with anxiety, I was a carefree kid in so many different ways. I think if you ask my mom what her biggest fear was, it was just like, Shaan was to a certain degree fearless. He would do whatever he wanted. He could jump from anywhere and he just didn't care. Even when I went to college, I went straight to Canada. I'm here in Austin, Texas. My family's here. And I ended up actually going all the way to Canada because one of the experiences I wanted when I was going to college is I wanted to have almost an international experience. And I wasn't even content for being there for like a semester. I wanted to be there for a long time. And I lived in a whole different country, thousands of miles away from my family, just because I wanted the independence. And this isn't to say that my family was overbearing or anything like that, but I was just so carefree and I just really wanted to go. I hadn't really ever seen snow the same way, and so I always wanted to go northeast and travel, and I always just watch the movies in New York and be like, oh, I want to feel like I'm living there. But then when I started experiencing anxiety, intense anxiety, I could not even be alone. I had to move back to my parents' house. And in fact, I became agoraphobic. I couldn't leave my house. And so I had this huge shift where I was like, I was this carefree guy, and now I can't even leave my house. I can't even not rely on my parents. I stopped working completely. Any sort of higher education, I said, nope, I need to figure this out. And over time, as time went on, as I was losing more weight, as I was more and more confused about what was happening, I started losing confidence in myself. And I started relying on my parents. I was relying on, okay, why is this happening? Hey, can you make me feel better? Hey, what's going on? And as supportive as my parents were at that time, naturally, they would get frustrated over time because how many times am I going to ask the same question over and over again? And why do I keep relying on them for assurances when in a certain way they knew what was happening, right? I feel like even if you're struggling with anxiety, your friends, your family, whoever you're relying on, they essentially know what's going on. But them knowing what's going on is not enough. It's important for you to know what's happening. And when you're in the thick of all of this, it's really hard to see what's going on. So you may have a similar situation. You might be relying on somebody and you might be wondering, okay, how do I stop using this person as a safety person, essentially? Well, it's important to come to terms with this one thing, and that is you're using this person as a way for yourself to feel better. You might be experiencing intense panic attacks, intrusive thoughts. You might be scared of something and you're afraid something bad's gonna happen. And so what you do is you go to this person as a way to placate you in the moment. Placate meaning to help soothe you and help you feel better in the moment. And you might not even be using the safety person for that. You might also be using the safety person. You might be going on Google. You might be going on forums. You might even be watching these videos as a way to placate yourself and feel better. And this is what every anxiety sufferer does. Everybody that's stuck in the cycle, they always do this. They run away from experiencing the anxiety because they're afraid something bad's gonna happen. Essentially, they are resisting a feeling or a thought or symptoms. And this is what makes anxiety recovery kind of ironic, because it's like, I have people tell me, hey, I'm accepting my anxiety, but I'm relying on the safety person. And I say, well, what happens if you're not relying on the safety person? Well, my anxiety goes up. But if you're accepting your anxiety, whether it goes up or not, it doesn't really matter, right? If you're truly accepting, shouldn't matter if your anxiety goes up or down. And so what people are doing is that they're relying on that safety person. Now, there can be a lot of reasons for why. I think one of the biggest reasons is people don't understand what's happening with the anxiety recovery journey. They don't know the mechanics. And again, that report, that book, that free ebook down below will really help break that down. But then once you understand that this is anxiety, now it's important to realize that a lot of your recovery journey is going to happen while feeling uncomfortable. And what people want to do is that they want to become confident first and then stop relying on the person. People don't realize that confidence happens as a consequence of going back to living and realizing yourself you don't need this person. And with that said, I kind of want to bring up some harsh truth here. There's a little bit of a selfish nature in there. Yeah, I hate to call it out, but I understand, right? Because you're going through anxiety, it's really intense and you want to feel better, but fundamentally you are utilizing this person for you to feel better. It's important to realize that, because what I find is when people are relying on safety people, they're quote unquote safety people, that safety person can essentially sometimes get really irritated or frustrated. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I want you to understand from their perspective, right? They know that they're there to support you and help you, and they have great intentions and they have a lot of empathy. However, for anybody, it can be very frustrating if you're using them for you to feel better, right? There's a little bit of, like I said, like that narcissistic kind of selfish nature where you're using somebody not because of them, but for you to feel better. So the important thing to understand is this, okay? If you're going through the recovery journey, it's going to seem scary, it's going to seem daunting. That's okay. The focus is on doing it scared anyway, and essentially weaning off from this person, right? And realizing that a lot of your recovery journey is going to be going into the unknown without relying on these coping crutches and really experiencing the anxiety, responding, and over time letting it pass. This is how people start weaning off their safety people. Even though I'm in Austin, my family's here, you know, I'm still pretty independent. I'm kind of back to the old Shaan that's still carefree. Sometimes, you know, I won't text my parents sometimes and stuff like that. I'll see them regularly, but you know, I'm the kid between me and my sister that like won't respond because I tend to do, you know, my own thing and I'm just always out and about. But if you were to compare that to anxiety Shaan was calling my dad up every couple of hours, calling my mom up, trying to figure out what was going on. I would not stop talking about anxiety. Anybody that asked about it, I would like just talk about my anxiety. Now it's important to realize that the people that are watching this video might also be people that are helping others going through the recovery journey. You might be that safety person for someone else. And for that, I want to guide you through the process too, right? How do you support this person? And one of the things I've noticed is that sometimes with safety people, they almost try to protect the person. And what I mean protect is they always want them to feel comfortable, right? My mom was like that. My mom always wanted me to just keep Shaan comfortable. Like he's going through a rough time, just like keep him comfortable, make sure, you know, he's okay. And I understand these are all good intentions, right? You know, especially when you see somebody struggling who's a loved one, it almost hurts you more than if it was happening to you. But there's also problems with this too, because essentially what you're saying, the fundamental thing you're saying while you're trying to make someone comfortable is like, hey, you need to feel okay all the time. And part of anxiety recovery is helping the person understand it's okay to not feel good all the time. Not feeling good is part of the healing journey. It's letting it pass. It's letting the emotions, the sensations, the symptoms pass on their own so that you can go back to living. But when people are so focused on trying to stay comfortable, they get stuck. And what that does is that it, just like any emotions, any anxious energy, you bottle it up, and what happens is that it just ends up overflowing. And the other thing that if you're somebody who's helping someone through the recovery journey is to realize there's two components in this. There's, yes, you want to protect that person, but also you want to prepare that person, right? A big part of having somebody there is to make sure that they are self-reliant first. They're not going to be much help if, you know, they can't rely on themselves and they're relying on you. It's just going to be a one-way relationship. And sometimes it's important to realize that the safety person sometimes doesn't want the other person to not rely on them. Yeah, sometimes it feels like they're getting meaning out of someone relying on them. Again, this video can go really deep. We can go into a lot of different nuances, a lot of different scenarios, but the point is that the most important thing to understand is what's the best thing for the person. And the best thing always is having someone become their own guide, having someone becoming self-reliant. That doesn't mean that you don't rely on somebody when you're going through a difficult time. obviously that's something that you would always want to have. However, a big part of recovery is understanding that how you respond to life, your emotions, your sensations, all these things, however you react is 100% within your control. And when you realize that it's within your control, well, then what happens is you take responsibility. And what's ironic is once you start taking responsibility for how you respond, that's ironically where freedom happens. People always say, I want to recover. How do I get better? Like, I wish recovery was in my hands, but they almost feel like recovery is not in their hands. But if I say, hey, look, recovery is in your hands, but it's based on how you respond, people almost sometimes panic. It's like they don't want the responsibility. You can't have it both ways. If you want recovery to be in your hands, that also means you need to have the responsibility as well. So to sum up this video, a big part of letting go of the safety person is realizing that you're going to be going into situations which are quote unquote unknown, which are uncertain. But realizing that as you go through those experiences, one of the things you're going to gain as you start responding, as you start realizing that what we're showing you in this channel works, well, then the confidence will come on its own. So if you keep living your life and you're doing it and you're realizing, you're seeing that this is working for you, well, then do you need me or anyone to tell you, hey, stop relying on this person? It's gonna happen as a consequence. You're naturally gonna wean off. You're naturally gonna start going out further and further and just going back to live. And the second thing is to realize that, you know, having a safety person is totally fine, but recognizing that when it's not becoming useful to you, but also when it can become a nuisance to the person. And recognizing that there is a little bit of a selfish component here, yeah? And it's important to be mindful of that. And I think if you're mindful of that, you'll start realizing how this is sort of an unproductive behavior. And the last point is the point for the safety person, which is recognizing that you always want to be there for them, you want to care for them, but a big part of the recovery journey for them is helping them go into uncomfortable situations and not just trying to protect them, but trying to prepare them for life. And also recognizing that fundamentally recovery is going to be on their accord, and all you can just do is help support and point them in the right direction. This is exactly how it works in the mentorship, right? I can tell people what to do, but if they don't do it, it doesn't matter, right? People say, you know, well, the mentorship helps me. Well, it depends. You know, are you willing to put in the work? Are you willing to do the things the mentors tell you? Because, you know, if that's not the case, it's not about the mentorship helping you. I mean, nothing's going to help you. So I hope this video helps. I know it was a little bit raw. I know it was a little bit direct. But, you know, it is important to call things out as part of the recovery journey, and realizing that, you know, in the recovery journey, there are going to be behaviors that you're going to have to unlearn and let go of. And the answer to that isn't trying to feel better before doing it, but realizing that you should be doing it while feeling uncomfortable. And as a consequence, the comfort comes. So I hope this video helps. If you want to know more resources, I got some resources down below. I got a Facebook group, which I'm doing lives more regularly in. I got that free ebook. You can follow me on Instagram. There's a bunch of other videos on this YouTube channel. If you guys want to apply for mentorship and have me and my team guide you through the journey, you can click the link down below. So there's all these different resources. I hope this video helps, and I'll see you in the next one.